It's Brainwashed with Dr. Tom and guitar picks with Kyle Welch, Billy Joel, Piano Man.
There's another piece of songwriting that I just think is fantastic, and every time, again, it tells a story, but the different thing about this story is not only is it a story, but it's a story about a musician. And, you know, it's, of course, it's a autobiographical when he sings it. And, you know, the one line in the end of the song where it says, they sit at the bar and put bread in my jar and say, man, what are you doing here? You know, I think that line always just hits me right here in the heart, because it's, you know, I've done that sort of thing. I've gone out and played bars, and I've played gigs that really wasn't the stuff I wanted to play, but you're making a living, and you're getting yourself something to eat. And that was, you know, a song that I listened to growing up and still listen to now. I mean, I never get tired of hearing it. Mm-hmm. And it just, you know, I've seen Billy Joel in concert a couple times, and he's a big influence on me, even though he's a piano player. Mm-hmm. Just his trueness to the music and the way he approaches telling a song, and again, 3 or 4 minutes, which is, I think, there's a total art to it. Mm-hmm. Is very inspiring.
Well, tell us about maybe one of your toughest gigs and maybe your most interesting gig.
I think one of the toughest gigs I played, I was playing down in Wilmington. It was in a cover band. I don't do the whole cover tune thing anymore. But I was again paying my bills, and I was coming down with the flu or some kind of just awful cold, and I was running a fever, and I felt horrible. And but I had to play the gig. The show must go on, so we went down, and I was running a fever, and I played and just sweated out. I was in the middle of winter, mm-hmm. and I remember sitting on the back of the stage between sets, and I must have looked terrible. And somebody came up to me and said, hey man, you okay? You should slow down. And I was like, oh, I haven't been drinking. I'm sick. I'm not drunk. I promise you that. And the thing about that was, okay, so we're driving home. You know, we get back from the gig the next morning. We stayed overnight in Wilmington, and there's a note on my car. We all had carpooled down there, so when I got back to my car, there's another note from the drummer in the band saying, gig tonight in Greensboro. And I was just like, oh God, because I was so sick. And one of the most interesting gigs I played, I think probably one of the most unusual gigs I played was for Guilford Tech had asked me if I could do some classical guitar for an awards ceremony mm-hmm. that they were doing in Raleigh for a community college. I said, sure. They said, it's going to be about 20 minutes worth of music. I said, no problem. So I came down, and it was a wallpaper kind of gig, sitting, just playing. So I'm playing, and this lady comes up to me, and she's probably in her late 50s, maybe mid 60s at the oldest. Mm-hmm. And I'm playing some classical pieces, which are a little more tough to play, and I'm trying to focus. And she wants to have a conversation with me, so she just starts talking and asking me questions. It's not like she's saying that sounds great, and she's just going to pass by. She asked me, and it turns out she knew like my brother or something like that. And she's like, "Yes, I know the Welches. Doesn't your brother work in Greens? I see him all the time." I'm like, lady, I'm trying to play over here. And then the thing that made it even more interesting, we sat down and we're eating. I was sitting with the professor I had gone with, and I was to be done playing, so we packed everything up and put it in the van. We're getting ready to leave. And again, they said, and now Kyle's going to play for us again. And I'm like, no, he's not. He was told he was done. So that had to be one of the more interesting snafus I ran into.
Is any wild gigs?
Any wild, just out of control? Yeah, had a few of those. I remember playing one gig where it was actually the first time I had gone out with this girl, mm-hmm. and so she had come to the gig to see me play, and a bunch of other ladies that I happen to know were at the gig also, and so we're playing, and they all want to come up and give me hugs while I'm up there, and they stepped all over some of my equipment, and some of it got broken, and of course I was getting dirty looks from the girl I was on a first date with, so anything can happen,
Yeah, whether women, young or old, they
always seem to be in there. It goes along with the rock and roll, I guess.
It's Brainwashed with Dr. Tom and guitar picks with Kyle Welch. Michael Jackson, Beat It.
What can you say? It was off one of the biggest selling records of all time, but of course Eddie Van Halen played guitar on that song. So you have the powerful mm-hmm. Michael Jackson singer, mm-hmm. And Quincy Jones helped produce that record, and so the driving almost faster R&B, but with Eddie Van Halen playing guitar on it, and you just it's got the main guitar lick in it. It's just so it's kind of a crossover thing, I guess, where you have the generation that likes the more R&B, not really expecting to get the hard rock. course, the way they overlaid the textures, there's two guitars. As you get towards the end, you have the top of the two of them I thought was genius, and there's a blazing solo in the middle of it. And it's my guess that they knew the record was going to be big, and they wanted to capitalize on what else was big at the time, and Van Halen was huge at that time too. And so it's my guess that they had asked him to come play on the record, and I don't know if that was Quincy Jones doing or not. But if you look at successive Michael Jackson albums, Slash from Guns N' Roses ended up playing on his song Dangerous as well. Or on the Dangerous record, I think the song was actually Black and White. I don't think it was a song Dangerous. So I don't know if it was a gimmick that they put it together to sell a record. Whatever it is, a great song.
It's Brainwash with Dr. Tom and Guitar Picks with Kyle Welch. Prince, Purple Rain.
Prince is a musician that I admire greatly. I've seen him, only seen him once in concert, and to this day it's one of the best concerts I've ever been to. And a lot of people just know him, kind of for the singing and the thing that he does. But he's a fantastic guitar player. But not only is he a fantastic guitar player, when I saw him live, he played like every instrument throughout his set. He played piano, he played bass, he played everything. And I just picked Purple Rain mostly because of the lick in the end of that song. It's really simple. It's only about 4 notes, but as the song is kind of fading out, you get this. Repetitive thing over the top of it, which I think really makes the song. There's a guitar solo in it, which Prince plays, and just seeing somebody who's that good as a musician all around, very impressive to me. And then of course you have the little piano outro. So the whole song, just fantastic piece of work.
We'll get more to some of the other songs later, but in your own songwriting of these ones we've already talked about, do you see a direct influence?
Yeah, a lot of it I do. And some of it I'll go back and listen to, and I'll go, well, where did that come from? But I think that everything that you do, be it as a person or as a musician, is a culmination of your past experiences. So you can't help as a musician to reflect who you've listened to. I mean, so we're not really reinventing the wheel per se, but you can always put new hubcaps on it. Being, okay, I grew up listening to these guys and I studied listening to Led Zeppelin, but now how am I going to do it in my own way? Or I studied, jazz, or I studied whatever it is that you may have studied. But I think you have to make it your own eventually. You have to personalize it. So you draw on your influences for inspiration. I know, like if I'm stuck writing, I'll go listen to something that's very inspiring to me. Maybe not necessarily even a guitar piece. It might be a piano concerto or something like that. But you might find one little twist in there of melody against harmony, which and it clicks in your brain, and you go back and you sit down and you get over that hump and you finish the whole thing. So as far as my music goes, I do all instrumental pieces. But going back to the thing we were talking about the storytelling, I like to start with an idea or a motif, if you will, and generate that throughout the song. So we eventually will come back to it, or you'll hear it somewhere else in the song. And so you're hearing the whole story, but with no words, which makes it even more difficult, I think, to do. But at the same time, it's easier because you don't have to worry about did I get the rhyme scheme, and is that the way that works? So it's a little give and take. But I really didn't start to appreciate Prince though until I was probably in my early 20s. I think that I was just a little bit too young to appreciate the music that was happening. And of course my parents growing up were not big fans of Prince. I think they thought he was a bit lewd, so we didn't really have any of the records in the house, but a lot of my friends listened to it. So.